And here we go. It has been, I'd say it's been too long, but I don't even think that describes the layoff that we've had in between recording episodes of the SoonerNation podcast. We're still a thing, not a very consistent thing, obviously, but we're still a thing. Welcome, everyone, to the SoonerNation podcast. I'm Matt Hofeld, along with the one and the only Rich DeCray. Heartland Sports, heartland-sports.com is our home. And there's a lot to talk about. By the way, Merry Christmas, Rich.
Merry Christmas to you as well, man.
All right. A lot to talk about. I mean, and we're not even going to get into a whole lot of bowl stuff today. We'll get into a little bit of it. I want to talk about the Big 12 in general with the bowl because I think this could be a terrible bowl season for the Big 12 just because I don't like the matchups. But then there's Oklahoma, Auburn to talk about, both basketball and football. And there's the basketball program in general to talk about. But really the thing that just is on the forefront of everything Sooner related right now is Joe Mixon. And it's a story that's not going to go away. Even if Joe Mixon leaves to go to the NFL, I've got some thoughts on that. This story is not going away. If Joe Mixon stays at Oklahoma for what would be his junior season, redshirt junior senior season, the story is not going away. I said this on the radio earlier in the week. If Joe Mixon makes it into the NFL Hall of Fame during his induction, this video will be all around. This is a story that's never going to go away. It is going to follow Joe Mixon for the rest of his life, be it in the NFL or in the college football level. You got any quick thoughts on that? Because I want to talk. Let's talk about the incident and the punishment and all that stuff first, and then we'll talk about his future.
Yeah, that works for me. Just very briefly, I completely agree with you. When you look at what happened, how things went down, the fact that we were previewed to the incident 2.5 years ago, and it's coming up again, it is one of those things that will follow Joe Mixon, regardless if he stays at the University of Oklahoma or if he moves on to the next level, being the NFL. And one thing I think we can agree on is that Joe Mixon is an NFL-type talent. A team will take a chance on him, regardless of what his past says about him and the way that he's changed or grown since that moment. But he's an NFL-type talent, and once again, it's going to be hard to shake an incident such as this one.
Yeah, and the thing is that really just that gets me with this story is I didn't need to see a video to know that what he did was reprehensible. I didn't need to see a video to know that he was out of line. I didn't need to see a video to know that it was repulsive to hit a girl. Now, and there's all kinds of circumstances around this situation. I get that. But at the end of the day, he punched a woman in the face. And while you can't, in my opinion, you cannot excuse or explain the actions of Joe Mixon, on the same boat, in my opinion, you can't come back 2.5 years later and say you want to do a different form of punishment. When Bob Stoops and Joe Castiglione and David Bourne, when they made this decision what to do with Joe Mixon, and Bob Stoops is I didn't know this until yesterday when he did his press conference, but they said, Joe, here's what it is, man. It's a 1-year suspension here at the University of Oklahoma, or it's you leaving the University of Oklahoma. Here's your ticket. We're going to give you a free and clear pass to go wherever you want to go. And Joe Mixon chose to stick it out at the University of Oklahoma, chose to remain a part of the program after his 1-year suspension. But now that because you've seen a video, it doesn't mean Joe Fan gets to pick a harsher punishment. It doesn't mean that Joe Fan gets to come back and say it's not fair. It doesn't mean that Joe Fan gets to come back and say that he shouldn't be on this team anymore just because Joe Fan has seen a video. I didn't need a video to feel that way. I didn't need a video to say all that stuff. And 2 years ago, you and I were both writing for a different media outlet, and we had our thoughts on this. And 2.5 years ago, I was on the record saying I think the kid needs to be gone. He doesn't need to play football at the University of Oklahoma. But I don't get to pick the punishment. And the punishment was handed down by the university. He did his 100 hours of community service on his misdemeanor assault charge. He did his counseling. And he's back as a part of the team. Has been for 2 years. And 85,000 people cheer him every other Saturday when they're in Norman They cheer him on. But now because they've seen a video, I mean, ESPN's just being ridiculous, asking for Bob Stoops to resign and talking about all this crud. It took them a video to feel that way? How come they weren't saying this 2.5 years ago?
I don't have an answer for you. And that is going to be one of the greatest mysteries involving this entire incident, involving Joe Mixon and his future, involving the Oklahoma Sooners, involving Bob Stoops, Joe Castiglione, David Boren. We obviously saw Bob Stoops take a specific stance. And when he stood at the press conference, Bob Stoops stood alone. Joe Castiglione wasn't there. David Boren wasn't there right next to him when he made these statements. I don't know what that means, but I'm not going to read a whole lot into it. I go back to the question that you're asking, where was the outrage 2.5 years ago? Because it hadn't reached this level, the current level that it's at, but it still doesn't answer that question, and it still doesn't satisfy what we're wanting to know as we sit here and put this together. But I may catch some flack for saying this specific statement that's about to come out of my mouth. When we look at the Joe Mixon incident, I understand that domestic violence, especially from collegiate athletes as well as professional athletes, has been something that's been in the spotlight for the past, 5 years now? And when we look at this situation, yes, Joe Mixon punched a girl. Was it domestic violence? No. Joe Mixon, I have to take him at his word when he says that it was a reaction. Does it make it right? No. Is it going to be a conversation piece for years to come? Yes. But when I'm breaking it down in my own mind, is you cannot punish a kid for the same crime twice. We have laws against such things. We have things in place to avoid such incidents. And I think Joe Mixon has done what the university has asked him to do. I think he has served his time and done what needed to be done in order to get back onto the field. Because just because someone comes to him and says you can stay or you can go doesn't mean he's ever going to play it down at the University of Oklahoma. And there can be comparisons. Dusty Dvoracek has released some statements saying that he would openly accept a conversation with Joe Mixon about what to do and how to move forward. But nonetheless, I keep coming back to it's almost apples to oranges when we look at the past 5 years. It's not a Ray Rice situation.
No, and that's a good point. I'm going to come back to that. Remind me to come back to that because I want to hit on something that you said that is a great point, and that is, where was Joe Castiglione yesterday, and where was David Boren yesterday? Because you get the feeling, anybody who knows this situation knows that this was not a Bob Stoops only decision. David Boren played a role in this decision. Joe Castiglione played a role in this decision. But now that the video's out, it's kind of like, they're hiding behind a curtain somewhere, scratching their head. And there's Bob Stoops to take the full brunt of the political correctness of the media and everything over an incident. And I thought Bob Stoops did a great job at pointing out the fact that this happened 2.5 years ago. This is not fresh. And I agree with Bob Stoops that if it happened today, then the only choice, the only measure of action to take is to separate the kid from the team, to give him the boot. And I felt that way 2.5 years ago. But again, that's how I felt 2.5 years ago. I didn't get to make the choice. I didn't get to make the decision. I didn't get to do the punishment. So it's not fair because a video comes out that I get to come back and say, get rid of the kid. The second thing that you said that really I think is accurate and it's true is comparing Joe Mixon to Ray Rice. I don't think you can do that either. When you look at, or even Baylor, when I was on the radio this last week, one of the guys on the radio wanted to compare it to what's going on in Baylor. You kidding me? Baylor was a cover-up from the players who were doing the assault, to the coaches who knew about the assault, to the president of the university who was clearing players after that and hiding evidence. That's why you've got people getting fired from the head coach to the coaching staff to the president of the university. It's a cover-up. There was no cover-up here. As soon as it happened, I mean, we were aware, everyone was aware the night that it happened, that this woman was knocked out or her face was broken, literally at the hand of Joe Mixon. Everyone knew that. Joe Mixon never tried to say he didn't do it. He never tried to say he wasn't there. Bob Stoops didn't try to hide Joe Mixon in his basement or anything like that. There's no cover-up. You can't compare this to what happened in Baylor. And you can't compare it to Ray Rice. And the reason I feel like it's different with Ray Rice and Joe Mixon, again, there was a video involved. But prior to the video with Ray Rice lied. He lied to the NFL about what happened on that elevator. He lied to the NFL about his wife and or his fiance, the reason why she was on the ground. He lied about the whole thing. And then the video comes out and shows that he's lying, which brings in a little bit of harsher punishment. With my children, of course, my children are older now, except for my 7-year-old. But with my children, they know that if they tell the truth, they're probably still going to get in trouble. You make the big mess, you tell the truth, you're probably going to get in trouble for making the big mess. But if you lie about making the big mess, you're going to get even more trouble. There was no lying involved in this. The video plays out pretty much to detail what both parties said happened. And there's no reason to go back. And now, and again, my whole point is there's no reason to go back and to say, now that I've seen a video, I think we should punish this kid a different way. Bob Stoops saw the video. David Bourne saw the video. Joe Castiglione saw the video. They chose the punishment. And right or wrong, they got to live with it. But it would be, in my opinion, unjust to go back and punish this kid again. So now you got something to say on that? Are you?
No, go ahead. Ask your question.
Well, I'll say the next question is, what does Joe Mixon do? I mean, you're Joe Mixon, and you heard the head coach who has stood up for you for the last 2.5 years. You just heard him say, well, if it happened today, then he would be off the team. You also heard him say in hindsight, 2.5 years later, the punishment we did wasn't enough. You heard Bob Stoops say that we probably need to have a talk about separation to see if it's better for Joe, better for the university, that the two part ways. You're an NFL talent. Some say he's one of the top NFL talents in the Big 12, but you're only a sophomore. You've only played college football 2 years. If you're Joe Mixon, what's your decision? Are you even playing in the Sugar Bowl? And if you do play in the Sugar Bowl, what are you doing afterwards?
If I'm in Joe Mixon's shoes, the thing that I've got to look at is honestly what's best for me. Because it doesn't matter what the person sitting next to me thinks if I'm Joe Mixon. It doesn't matter what the person on the other side of the TV thinks. It doesn't matter what any analyst or any sports writer thinks about me as a person. And I've got to do, if I'm in Joe Mixon's shoes, I've got to do what's best for me. Can I raise my draft stock by coming back a year? Or should I leave knowing that the incident's going to follow me? My draft stock may fall because of it. I don't know if you've looked, but Joe Mixon's rated as the 5th best running back coming out of college this year. 5th best running back who's eligible for the draft at this point in time. That's nothing to just shake your head at and say it's not good enough. But again, what's going to be best for him? Because you and I can sit here and talk about all these different scenarios and how to try to make some of what has happened disappear. But the honest truth that you and I said at the beginning of this podcast is that's not going to happen. So again, I'm looking at what's best for me, and I think the best decision from a playing standpoint would be to come back for a final year.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think, and I again, I'm on record saying this, so it's not something that just popped up since last Friday. I said I thought Joe Mixon was gone unless the video came out. Now that the video's out, I think he's going to stay. And that's what I was saying all along. I mean, I honestly think that Joe Mixon is too toxic for the NFL right now. I don't think that he would be drafted at this point. I'm not saying he's not a draftable talent, But I'm saying NFL right now wants no part of this. So if I'm Joe Mixon, I know I can improve my draft stock, and I can come back a year later with this video being a year behind me, and I can go to the NFL and I can be a higher round pick. I don't think Joe Mixon is ever going to be a first round pick. I don't. I think he's a first round talent. I think there's a lot of scouts and a lot of people, executives, who feel that way about him. But right now, I don't. And James Hale, by the way, James Hale wrote an article earlier, yesterday or today, and he agrees that he's not draftable right now. But this is what I've been saying since last Friday. And so I think it makes sense. And with that, and I want to get your opinion on this, agree or disagree. But with that, I think the University of Oklahoma is obligated to him to make it possible for him to come back. And the reason why I say that is because they gave him a choice. Take this 1-year suspension or go play football somewhere else. And he took the 1-year suspension. And the university cannot come back now and say, well, that wasn't good enough. We gave you 2 years. No one in the NFL wanted to take you because of the incident. Not our problem. See you later. They're obligated to Joe Mixon. That was part of the deal. And Bob Stoops talked about redemption. He talked about, giving this kid the opportunity to get his life right. And there's just no way that they can kick him to the curb. And in my opinion, there's no way you kick this kid to the curb and you save face with the team. If they kick this kid to the curb, I think there's a legitimate chance that there are protests amongst the players on this team over what they did to Joe Mixon. I think he's that important to the team. I think he's that popular on the team. And I think the worst thing that could happen right now for this team, which is setting up to be, I think, a really, really good team next year, particularly offensively, it could be detrimental for Bob Stoops to kick Joe Mixon to the curb when Joe Mixon's not ready for the NFL or the NFL's not ready for Joe Mixon.
I don't disagree with you at all there. And I will say the university can say whatever it wants to. The coaches, the leadership of the university can say whatever they want to at this point. But the actions cannot change unless we see a change in policy. And I do think that is what's coming. I do think they're going to sit down with some people to implement, I don't want to say a blanket statement for such incidents, but they will make it, Bob Stoops even alluded to it, that there's no room, there's no recovering from an incident like this. So I think they may have even already begun that process of saying, what can we do in order to have a policy in place that allows us to deal with this in a specific manner, and we can educate any incoming freshmen, whether they're an athlete or not, we can educate them on the consequences of such a decision. So I agree with you, Joe Mixon. The university is obligated to him, but things for sure will change, not just at Oklahoma, not just in the Big 12, but we'll see a lot of things coming forward nationwide because of the string of events that have happened on the collegiate level concerning violence towards women.
Yeah, I mean, and I agree with all of that. And it's just going to be interesting to see what this kid decides to do. I think he's coming back. I mean, I think probably sometime in the near future, maybe even before they play in the Sugar Bowl, I think you're going to hear Joe Mixon say that he would like to come back for one more year. And I think it'll be kind of hands down known all around that this will be it. This will be the final chapter of the University of Oklahoma saga with Joe Mixon. But I think it's coming. And I think Bob Stoops, they have to do it. They have to welcome him back. And they have to move on they can't do, Frank Shannon came back to the team, and Frank Shannon was never allowed to be Frank Shannon again. And I don't know what was going on with that situation. I don't know if they knew more about that situation than they know about Joe Mixon. I don't know. But Frank Shannon came back, and he was never, this is the guy who led the team in tackles. And he never sniffed the proper amount of playing time after coming back. And it can't be that way, Joe Mixon. You've given him 2 seasons after the incident. You got to give him a third if he wants it.
Let me ask you this question then, because we see Rodney Anderson gets hurt, misses the entire season. I don't want to say that depth has been a major concern at running back for Oklahoma since I don't know when, maybe the 90s. But when we look at that situation, you're talking about Frank Shannon. The linebackers are one of the deepest units on the defensive side of the ball. Had there been more talent, do you think Joe Mixon receives the playing time that he does, or he's more relegated to a special teams type player?
No, Joe Mixon's a star.
I know. Frank Shannon was a star.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There was something in that. They knew more about Frank Shannon, or Frank Shannon's attitude was off. I don't know. There was clearly that was a different circumstance than what Joe Mixon was, and whatever happened behind the scenes, I believe, was different than what it has been behind the scenes with Joe Mixon. And so, all that said, I believe that absolutely. I think he's playing. I mean, I think he would have played as a true freshman. Had he not gone through the 1-year suspension, he would have played. And then they had him for a year on campus. They didn't get to do anything with him. And then he gets to play in spring. All right, I assume they go into the fall, and they get to see him in fall practice. And they're like, wow, man, this kid's a year older, a year bigger, a year stronger. There's no way he wasn't going to play. Just no way. And that's with Samaje Perine, who is also an NFL talent, which I believe Samaje's gone. I mean, well, that's a different conversation for a different day, but I believe Samaje's gone. So now we got the Sugar Bowl, January 2nd, against Auburn. And we'll next week we'll get into this a lot more in depth than what we're going to hit on tonight. But when you look at Auburn, second in the West, you look at their record. Not Oklahoma. They lost 2 of their first 3, and then they went on a streak. Finished the season 11-2. Now you're looking at 11-2. That doesn't make sense. 10-2. I'm already giving them a win for the Sugar Bowl. Now you're looking at an Auburn team that's 8-4, and the first thing I look at that and I think, okay, a little bit deceiving, because 2 of their losses were the teams that are in the playoffs right now. They lost to Clemson, they lost to Alabama, and you throw in there A&M and Georgia, and I really think you can look at the Georgia loss and scratch your head and think, what in the world happened there? But I think it's a pretty good Auburn team. And the first thing that jumps out to me that scares me about this team is their defense. I think that's the matchup of this game. There's 2 keys here that I think key matchups that we're going to jump in depth on. But those 2 keys are Auburn's defense versus Oklahoma's offense, which I think is going to be epic. And the second key is going to be Auburn's rushing attack versus Oklahoma's defensive front. I mean, think about that West Virginia game.
I'm giving you some facial cues here as to how I'm reacting or what I'm about to say.
Well, say it. Just say it, because you don't act like you think that their rushing attack is. I mean, that Petaway kid's averaging 6.1 yards per carry
when he plays.
he led the team.
He didn't play against Georgia. There are a lot of questions.
Well, that explains why they lost to Georgia.
There are a lot of questions surrounding not only Cameron Petway, but also Sean White, and whether they're actually going to be 100% healthy for the game against Oklahoma in the Sugar Bowl. Yes, we know that they have a lot of time to prepare. We know that Auburn didn't play on championship weekend, so they've got that extra week. But regardless, without those two players on the field, I don't think Sean White's the greatest quarterback. I don't even think he's the best quarterback in the SEC, but he's an efficient quarterback, which is all that you need to be, especially if you can move the ball and get first downs, not only by throwing, but also by rushing. I do think that Auburn has a solid rushing attack, but they take a significant step backwards without Cameron Petway. And if he's not going to be out there, if they're not going to have their usual starting center, whether that's Jeremy Johnson or John Franklin, excuse me, those are 2 quarterbacks. We'll just completely scratch that. I read that wrong as I'm looking at names here. Anyway, when we look at those two guys under center versus Sean White, I'll just transition it that way. Versus Sean White, they're not quite as effective. And again, back to the rushing attack, I don't think they're as dangerous as they could be. It would be like Oklahoma losing one or the other. You can take your pick, Samaje Perine or Joe Mixon.
Cameron Pett was going to play. I don't see how he does it. And we've all seen this Oklahoma defense. And here's all I got to say. Oklahoma's up by 2 points. We'll make it 4 points. Auburn needs a touchdown. Oklahoma's up by 4 points. Auburn has the ball in their hands with 2.5 minutes left in the game. What's your confidence level that OU's going to win? You got that OU defense going out in the field, 2.5 minutes left.
Who you said is setting up to be a great defense.
No. I said OU offense. I said OU.
Collectively, they have to be.
Yeah, they're going to be. I think they're going to be fantastic offensively next year. And can they get worse on defense? I mean, so that's
I don't think they can.
That's what I'm asking you. That's what I'm asking you. 2.5 minutes left in the game. Auburn brings their offense out in the field. OU puts their defense on the field. Let's say they got to go 80 yards even. We'll make it 85. They're on their own 15.
Okay. And they're down by 4.
They're down by 4. They got to have a touchdown. And you got to put $100 on the table that OU wins or loses. Which side is that $100 going on?
Man, I'm going to be the Uber homer here because I'm going to say.
Oh, no.
Look,
no.
I don't trust Auburn to throw the ball. And if they can't throw the ball, then Oklahoma's just going to stack the box and dare them to throw the ball because they can stop them 5 yards at a time. When you're running the ball, the clock is not winding down. You're throwing the ball, you get a few extra seconds to plan in between.
I'm just saying, man.
I told you I'm going to be the
that's definitely a homer call right there. You've seen this defense, man. I mean, this defense has to play from ahead. And they have to. And it has to be multiple scores. And the offense can't let their foot off the gas. The problem, I think, and again, we're just talking about initial fears. We'll get into bowl predictions and all that stuff next week. But the problem is, in my opinion, this is the best defense that Oklahoma has seen since they played Ohio State. I mean, it was a blitzkrieg through the Big 12 defenses. That's not taking anything away from Baker Mayfield, anything away from Dede Westbrook, anything away from Samaje Perine and Joe Mixon. This is in my opinion, I got to throw that out there, but this is a legit college football playoff earning offense. They just don't have a defense to go with it. You remember back in, 2009? That's the year Sam Bradford goes down. Landry Jones is thrown out there as a freshman. That was a great Oklahoma defense in 2009. That was a championship caliber defense in 2009. They just didn't have an offense to go with it. Now you fast forward 7 years later to 2016, and you've got a great championship caliber offense. You just don't have a defense to go with it. And that's what scares me because Oklahoma is going to have to keep their foot on the pedal in this game. And this is a game, it's the Sugar Bowl. Auburn wants this. They're coming. Their last game of the season was a loss to Alabama, but they still get to go to what is traditionally the pride of the SEC, the Sugar Bowl. And Oklahoma wants it. I think Oklahoma needs it. They do. This is their their big games this year. They have laid an egg. Houston was a big game. They laid an egg. Ohio State was a big game. They laid an egg.
I'm on board with you.
You don't think that they want this? You don't. I think they want it. I think they need it. I think they got to have it.
I think they got a huge distraction.
No.
Just before the ball. You don't think that's a distraction?
Joe Mixon, is that what you're talking about? No, I think it's a rallying cry. I think that the whole Joe Mixon, these guys are going to go out for Joe. I think it's going to bring them together. It's going to be more focused because this is for Joe, be it his last game at the University of Oklahoma or being it just their opportunity to rally around him and say, this is our brother, we love him. This is a game that you're going to get the absolute best out of the University of Oklahoma football team in this game, but you're going to get Auburn, who's fighting. Guess Malzahn loses this game, he goes into next season on the hot seat, and he's a player's coach. Those kids love him. This is for both schools. They want this.
Man, this is an Auburn program that started the season unranked, 0-1. What did they start 1-2?
I think they did.
1-3.
Hey, I can give you that answer.
I can't remember what their beginning record was, but I know.
They started 1-2. They lost the
1-2.
first 3 games of the season were a loss to Clemson, 19-13. Okay. They beat Arkansas State, and they lost to Texas A&M, 29-16.
But here's what we're looking at when we look at Auburn. The beginning of their season was absolutely atrocious. The talk around Auburn was whether Gus Malzahn deserved to stay through the end of the year, or they should begin looking. And the next thing you know is they begin to turn things around. Then all the focus in the SEC shifted to LSU, and we know how that ended up for Les Miles. But needless to say, I think Auburn would want this type of a win because of how they started the beginning of the year. Oklahoma, on the other hand, yes, they started 1-2 as well.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
But here's the thing is Oklahoma was expecting to play in the college playoff for the second year in a row. Their schedule lined up where if they run it, maybe even drop one game, they have the potential of getting into the college playoff. And again, I think that was the expectation, not only for the fan base, but also for the players. So to me, playing in the Sugar Bowl, while it is a big bowl, it's more of a consolation prize.
I really want to do my Jim Moore here. Playoffs! For the younger people, they have no idea what I just did. Here's the thing, though. While I agree with you, at the beginning of the season, playoff was the goal. That was the third game of the season. They were done with the playoff. And from
were they?
They were done with the playoff. The third game of the season.
I'm just going back. There was a tweet thrown out about the Big Ten, the year Ohio State won the college playoff.
You're really going to bring that back up? You're really going to bring that back up?
Throwing it out there. So I'm not going to count anybody out just because they lost one of the first or two of the first 3 games of the season.
2, and they didn't just lose; they lost bad.
Yeah, but we're looking at a Pac-12 who is absolutely terrible.
Washington's going to get destroyed. I mean, Washington.
I hope they don't.
But here, I'm with you. I hope they don't. But here's the thing: they're going to. And I believe if Washington's not in, which I don't think they deserve to be in, I think Penn State is. If anybody has an argument, it's Penn State. The Big Ten, best conference in America, in my opinion.
Did not send their champion.
They didn't,
which is ludicrous.
I mean, Baylor and TCU are sending them sympathy cards right now.
It shows the flaw of the system that we currently exist in.
Right.
In terms of college football.
Pac-12 should have been out. Big 12 should have been out.
Big 10 should have had 2 teams.
Big 10 should have had 2. But going back to what I was saying is that you've got an opportunity for this university to show improvement on the big stage, biggest game since Ohio State, best defense since Ohio State, and this sets up next season. I think it's a different story if they lose. If they lose to West Virginia and that eliminates them from the playoffs. If they lose to Oklahoma State and that eliminates them from the playoffs. And then they're like, it's fresh, man. 2 weeks ago, we were in the playoffs and now we're heading to the Sugar Bowl. That's different. But since the third game of the season, they've been out of the playoff and they've known it. So this is their big stage. This is their opportunity. And both schools have a lot to play for. This is going to be a big game. And it's going to be SEC. I mean, all due respect to Trevor Knight and that Alabama team was exactly in the scenario that you're talking about. They wanted to play. They wanted the championship, and they didn't get it.
They did.
And Oklahoma was consolation, but that happened late in the season. Neither one of these teams has been a playoff contender since the first month of the season.
Yeah, wasn't that the infamous kickoff?
Yeah, the kick six. Yeah. So the point is, I disagree with. I see how you can say that, but I disagree with you saying that.
And I'll respect your disagreement.
We're going to agree to
never
disagree.
Gonna agree.
Okay, so again, we'll talk more about that as it approaches. But there are things that are going to happen in the Big 12 well before Oklahoma plays against Auburn on January 2nd. the Big 12 bowl season actually gets started this coming Tuesday, December 27th. Baylor against Boise State in whatever, was it the Motel 6 Cactus Bowl now? I mean, the bowls are ridiculous. Do you agree that the bowls are ridiculous?
I do have a lot of thoughts on that, but I'll just leave it at this. I think there are far too many bowls. The names are getting ridiculous, and that we should cut it down, maybe to an NCAA basketball format of 64 teams.
I mean, at least we're not playing in the Dollar General Bowl, because that's a real bowl. But at the Motel 6, I wonder if they're obligated to leave a light on somewhere in the stadium. Because, Motel 6 will leave a light on for you. Am I dating myself
It'll
again?
be better than the Super Bowl when the lights
when
go out.
Beyonce shut it down in New Orleans. Okay, Boise State, Baylor. The Broncos 10-2. Baylor 6-6. Baylor is a dumpster fire. They've already fired their coach. They've already hired a new coach. Shock Linwood not playing, which is no surprise. Shock Linwood's been in the doghouse since about week 6. Look, man, I said this at the top of the show. By the way, this show is a SoonerNation podcast, Heartland-Sports-Sports.com. You can read about us there. And by the way, go check out the new look on the website. We've redesigned the website. I'm kind of proud of it, but I think Baylor loses to Boise State, man. We've seen, as Oklahoma fans, we've seen Boise State in bowl games. Now, this is a far cry from the Fiesta Bowl, but still, man, this is a Baylor team that's in bad shape.
Yeah.
They lost to Texas.
Injuries have definitely plagued Baylor amongst other things. I think with Seth Russell on the field, it would be a different story. But that kid's, if his college career isn't over, I would be surprised. If his football career...
Oh, yeah, his college career is definitely over.
And I hate to say that about a kid that I think a lot of people looked up to, not only from a standpoint of who he was, but who he was as a player as well. So I think it's a different story, but I do have to give it to Boise State with you.
But they were going south before Seth Russell got hurt against Oklahoma.
It's true.
Don't forget the week before. I get it, but the week before, you're talking about Boise State. The week before they played Oklahoma, they lost 62 to 22 to TCU. 40 points. TCU put up 40 more points, 62 points. And I think Boise State's a better team than TCU. This team was going south before Seth Russell got injured, and they started out 6-0. And people started talking about Baylor as a dark horse. Baylor's going to save the Big 12. You remember that? And then they've lost. They have lost 6 games in a row. I think Boise State makes it 7. Big 12 starts out 0-1. Russell Athletic Bowl, a bowl that Oklahoma's familiar with. West Virginia, Miami, old Big East rivals. The Mountaineers ranked 16th in the nation. I think this is a bowl game that the Big 12 wins. West Virginia will travel. It's on the East Coast. West Virginia fans will go down 95. They'll travel to Orlando, Florida. They'll support their team in this. I think Dana Holgorsen has really been under the radar this season with what he's done at West Virginia. Skylar Howard's a little bit of a question mark. Yeah, he's either up or down. But I like what's happening at Miami. I think this is a program you're gonna see a resurgence. But I think West Virginia is ahead of the Hurricanes right now. This will be the first win for the Big 12 in the bowl season, and it may be the only win.
I disagree with you on that last statement, which will make the rest of the show just a little bit more fun instead of me saying, "Yep, I agree." I do think West Virginia gets the win, but I think it's a narrow one. And you nailed it when you said the play is really going to depend on how Skylar Howard is playing that day, because we know both teams are going to bring in stout running games. So how are the quarterbacks going to fare? That's what I'll be watching in that game, and whoever has the better game from that position will win this matchup. But again, I still think it'll be a closer game. Closer than Mountaineer fans want it to be, but they'll walk away with the win.
All right, Texas A&M, Kansas State in the Texas Bowl. I'm a big fan of Bill Snyder, but Trevor Knight's healthy as he's been in a while. He's gonna play. I'm blanking on his name. Texas A&M stud defensive lineman has said he's going to play. I don't see how Kansas State keeps up with Texas A&M's offense.
Jake Hubenak?
No, that's not it. Anyway, well, I'll think of it
He's a
here.
quarterback too. I'm doing.
What
good
are
with
you doing all
quarterback
these?
names.
Yeah, if I need you to
don't
give me
know, man.
a random
I'm
quarterback, you've
reading-
got it.
I'm reading names here, and I'm thinking that they're associated with a position, and they're not even close to being the position that you're talking about. So we'll scratch that one as well, and we'll move on. I'm going to pick the opposite of you when it comes to Kansas State and Texas A&M.
No, really?
Yeah, Trevor Knight, as much as I respect him as a person and respect what he's done off the field, Trevor Knight, injury prone. Could we see the guy that I just mentioned, Jake Hubenak? Could he step onto the field and give us a preview of what Texas A&M's bringing in 2017? I'm not 100% certain on that, but I'm not going to doubt the Wizard in this one. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people, even though they're 500 in Big 12 play. I think they surprise some people. Pull this one out.
No, I disagree. It is worth noting, though, that Texas A&M has suspended Speedy Noyle from this game. He won't be playing, and that's one of their star receivers, one of Trevor Knight's top targets. But I just don't think, even with Noyle out, I don't think Kansas State has the offense to match blow for blow with Texas A&M's offense. Two different style teams. Kansas State's going to have to figure out a way to make Texas A&M play their style of football, and I don't think they can do that. I don't think they're talented enough to do that, and I think A&M wins. Oklahoma State, Colorado in the Alamo Bowl, December 29th. I think it's going to be a great game. I do. Number 12 versus number 10. Colorado, a 10-win program. Who would have thought Colorado would be a 10-win program? But I think it's more indicative of how bad the Pac-12 was, that Colorado won 10 games. Than how good Colorado is. But that said, I think they're better than Oklahoma State. Again, I think a lot of things were exposed with Oklahoma State, particularly in the Bedlam game. I think this will be a fun game to watch, possibly one of the most entertaining games that the Big 12 will participate in. But I think I got to go with the Buffs here, man.
Yeah, I'm on board with you on two fronts here. I do think this will be a very entertaining game. I think you're going to see two of the better offenses going against one another, but we know that the Oklahoma State defense, whether that's passing or rushing defense, has been a little suspect. I think Colorado challenges them in numerous areas, and I think they find some cracks here and there that they're able to exploit, and they do get the win over Oklahoma State. But it'll be a good game.
I think it's going to be a great game. And again, it's a team in Colorado that's looking for validation. People are already, like me, already talking about this.
Well, it's the Pac-12.
But it is the Pac-12. But people like me out there going, they saw how this team got destroyed in the conference championship game, and they're talking about, they're not as good as advertised, smoke and mirrors type thing. We'll use it to talk about Texas Tech. But they're a team that's looking for a shot at redemption. They're looking to set themselves up for next season. Oklahoma State may be in that boat that you were talking about with Oklahoma. They're wanting a shot at the Sugar Bowl. They want to win the Big 12 championship. And they got it handed to them in Norman. What is their mindset right now?
For Oklahoma State? I mean, I have no idea. None whatsoever. I don't think they come in flat, though, if that's what
I think there's a chance. I think there's a greater chance they do than Oklahoma does.
I'm saying Oklahoma State has some really good receivers. They've got a really good quarterback. I just think when it comes to Oklahoma State, they could fall flat if they fail to challenge Colorado on a vertical level. If they fail to do that and they don't utilize that part of their game, then I would absolutely say this is a team that doesn't want to win.
I think comparing apples to apples, Colorado's better than Oklahoma State. But I also think there's a chance that Oklahoma State comes in here a little bit off keel because of the way their season ended. Liberty Bowl, if I'm TCU, I'm getting my bowl prize. I'm thanking them for the ticket and the gift and the free hotel room and all the food I got to eat in conjunction with that, because I don't think they have it. I think Baylor has a better chance of winning their bowl game than TCU does of theirs. TCU, you guys remember when we thought Kenny Hill was something special? I mean, remember back in August, we're like, man, Kenny Hill, that the Horned Frogs.
Yeah, but even 2 years before that, we were looking at him with Texas A&M.
Yeah, but I'm saying back in August, we're saying Kenny Hill is maybe what's the missing link.
Trill?
Yeah, I'm just saying. If you remember back, TCU was getting votes, first place votes preseason to win the Big 12 conference. 6-6. Gary Patterson, I believe, needs this win. I just don't think he's going. I don't think he's going to get it.
I think this could potentially turn into a blowout. You've got a guy like Nick Chubb who's going to be running the ball for Georgia, and he's a force to be reckoned with. He was one of the best backs in the league, in the SEC, we saw from previous years. And so I think they're going to struggle mightily when it comes to stopping the running game that Georgia's going to bring. And Georgia's going to control the clock and eventually win the game. But again, I don't think it's a high-scoring affair, but I think they get blown out. TCU being the team.
Yeah. I was thinking about that. It's not a high-scoring affair, but they get blown out.
Yeah, they could lose like by 21 points, and it'd be what?
42 to 21? Oh, 20. I see what you're saying. Okay. All right. I feel you. Okay. So then that leaves Oklahoma, Auburn, Sugar Bowl. I'm not going to give my prediction there just yet. We're going to break this game down, and we're going to break down Oklahoma State and Colorado as well this coming week at Heartland-Sports, Heartland-Sports.com with our bowl previews. But the reality is, at the end of the day, this is not a good setup for the Big 12 in the bowls. I think there's some terrible, terrible matchups this bowl season. And I think you're looking legitimately at 1, maybe 2 wins with this conference.
Yeah, I'm saying 3. I'm just going to throw it out there.
Well, you are the ever optimist. And that's not me being Debbie Downer. That's me being a realist,
right,
you know?
Right. And I completely understand where you're coming from. I do think Oklahoma has a really good shot at beating Auburn, and I think they've got a decent shot of beating them comfortably, which you're going to disagree with.
Yeah, I do. I not that they don't have a shot at beating Auburn. I agree. I think Baylor, I think Miami. I'm not Miami. They're not in the Big 12. I think Baylor, West Virginia, Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma have the best chances of winning. That's 4 out of the 5. I just don't think Baylor, Oklahoma State are going to win. I don't think Kansas State's going to win. And I'm going to hold judgment on Oklahoma State until our next podcast and next week when we're talking, getting ready for this game.
Right.
But I do think Oklahoma has a chance. I don't think they have a chance to win. I will be shocked if Oklahoma wins this in a blowout. I will be absolutely shocked.
It's not going to be a blowout.
But you just said there's a chance for it.
No, I said they win comfortably. Remember, there's a difference here.
I'm going to be shocked if this is more. What's defined comfortably? I'm thinking 10-14. If it's more than that,
that's comfortable.
That's not comfortable with this defense. To me, that's not comfortable with. You've seen this.
2-score
no, man, not with this defense.
So you win 30-20. It's not comfortable.
No, not at all. Okay. Not at all. If it's
now
30,
I know where you stand.
If it's 30-20. I'm going to be on pins and needles till there's about 45 seconds left. I'm just saying.
10-14 is a comfortable win to me, and I think Oklahoma has the potential to do that. 21's a blowout.
I can get on board with
21
that.
plus.
I can't get on board with that, but I can get on board with 10-14, and we'll talk more about it. We got a few minutes left here. We've got to jump into this. It's not as big as football, but, man, Oklahoma basketball, the word that comes to mind is bad. I mean, it's bad. They lost 4 of their last 5 games. They're on a 3-game losing streak right now that dates back. They lost to Wichita State in Oklahoma City. They lost to Memphis on their home court. They lost to Auburn, wherever that birthday of basketball thing was. This is, and I love Lon Kruger, and this is not a shot at Lon Kruger. Lon Kruger has been very good to us. I mean, I've been in Lon Kruger's office multiple times to visit with him. He's a guy I can call, and he'll give me the time of the day. I love Lon Kruger. This is his worst basketball team he's had at Oklahoma.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
I'm just saying that they've lost 3 in a row, and their next game is against Baylor,
who arguably is one of the best teams in the nation right now.
They're number 4. They're number 4.
Yeah, I get that, but I think they should be higher, and that's just. an opinion from me, someone who doesn't get to vote,
Mm-hmm.
but I look at the teams who are above them, aka Kansas, and with one loss, I don't care who that loss is to. I know that it was a ranked opponent in Indiana, but Kansas needs to be bumped down below Baylor. That's, again, just my opinion, and that's not a gauge of talent on these teams. It's a gauge of what have you done for me lately. And Kansas hasn't played any top programs since playing. They had back-to-back games, Indiana and then Duke. And so I get it. They're the cream of the crop. They're basketball royalty.
They
the
are.
Blue Bloods. And so they do get the nod over Baylor, which is absolutely fine because you're not playing for 4 spots when it comes down to the end of the year. You're playing for 4 number 1 seeds, yeah, but you're still vying for one of 64 spots. So that's neither here nor there. When it comes to Oklahoma basketball, this is a team that has a lot of improvements to do, and I don't know that they can make that up this year. They're going to have to make it up in recruiting, and with the current way things are going, if they have I don't know, heaven forbid, they have a 10-20 type season, the recruits aren't just going to pour in. You're not going to have that hidden gem in a Buddy Hield who comes in and becomes the NCAA Player of the Year anytime soon.
But the thing is this is Kruger's worst team. But they're talented.
They are talented.
They're young. They're young and they're inexperienced.
That's true.
Aside from Jordan Woodard, who I feel bad for. I mean, this guy got to grow up with Buddy Hield and Isaiah Cousins. He got to go to the Final Four with them. But it's like, do you remember really even last year, but more than so 2 years ago, when Kruger would try to rest his starters, he'd put Cousins and he'd put Buddy on the bench, and then the bench players would come in, and it was just awful basketball.
It was.
That's what's going on right now with the starting unit, and it's part of it is they're young, part of it is that they're inexperienced, but I think there's talent here, and I think there's a chance they're not gonna, unless they turn it around. They're not. There's no way they're a tournament team. I mean, maybe NIT. Maybe you have a shot at NIT. But I think you're going to have a chance to see guys like Rashad Odoms, Christian James. You're going to get to see them grow up. Kadeem Lattin's going to continue to get better. This Shepard kid is a
Jordan
stud.
Shepard's one of the. I've been really impressed with him coming in and being the ball handler.
Yeah.
As a freshman, because we know exactly what happened when Lon Kruger started 3 guards 5 years ago now. Started 3 guards that were freshmen, and some of the control issues and some of the turnover issues. So, yeah, he has a future in terms of basketball on the collegiate level. How high can he go will remain that question in the 4 years that he'll have to play at Oklahoma. But he has been an impressive guy for sure. Yeah,
and there's no doubt Lon Kruger has his work cut out for him. But if there's a guy who's proven he can do something, it's Lon Kruger. I mean, I don't think Oklahoma fans have any right or any ability to question Lon Kruger. I mean, look where this program was when he took over. Look where he's taken them to. And I'm sorry, maybe he needs a year to reload.
Yeah, you mentioned that, and I was thinking it at the same time that this is quite the reset for Lon Kruger, because you talk about, he brought in a guy like Romero Osby who shouldered a lot of the burden when it came to defense as well as offense, even though he was an undersized forward. You look at a couple of the other guys that matured along the way, and then you have Ryan Spangler transfer in and kind of shoulder that void that was left by a guy like Romero Osby, and all of a sudden they're without that. And so I think, to be 100% just transparent with my thoughts, I think this team is lacking a physical, dominant player inside, and they're struggling because it is a fast break team. That's what they're built for. We see the speed. We see the ability to shoot the ball from outside. All of those things still exist, but where's that Ryan Spangler? Where's that Romero Osby type guy who can get in and bang bodies and break them into a fast break opportunity, or at least get the tip out for a wide open second chance shot?
Yeah, and
we don't have that.
And Kadeem Lattin, has the chance, but he's more athletic than he is physical.
Mm-hmm.
I like the Doolittle kid. I think he's thick.
I think Doolittle can be a star on
this
team.
and I like Matt Freeman. I mean, there's a lot to like about this team. You just got to put them together and get them and let them work together. And they haven't had the chance to do that just yet. Check this out. Oklahoma starts December 30th against Baylor in Norman. Then they're at TCU, at Kansas State, home against Kansas, home against Texas Tech, at West Virginia. I mean, maybe 2 wins you can squeeze in there, in my opinion.
West Virginia is going to be tough. Kansas will be tough. Baylor's going to be tough.
Kansas State's going to be tough.
I
mean, and TCU's not the pushover that they have been. I mean, the worst thing you can do is go over down this stretch.
I'm talking about a physical presence, and I do want that to exist. Kadeem Latin, you're right, he can be that. But I think if it's going to happen, we see it begin to happen when they play a team like Kansas State, and then we see it fully cement when they play a team like Kansas and West Virginia. Kansas is an underrated physical. In terms of physicality, they're underrated in my mind, but West Virginia is going to blow anybody off the charts. They're using press Virginia as it's come to be known at this point in time. And so you look at the physicality and just the effort that a team like West Virginia puts on the court. We're going to learn a lot about what this team can do physically and what they're capable of early on if we haven't already.
Yeah, and I think also it needs to be noted that they beat Auburn if Jordan Woodard plays. Do you agree?
I don't know. I mean, because they had an extremely rough start to that game. This is a team,
but because they didn't have Jordan Woodard. I mean, I think that rough start was because they didn't have Jordan Woodard. And the good news is they lost, but they figured some things out with these guys.
What I'm saying is these were 2 teams who were known for getting a quick start and using that halftime lead to weather the storm of the second half.
Mm-hmm.
In order to secure a win, Oklahoma was favored by 6 in that game on the day of. Secondary to that, we're looking at an Auburn team who, like I said, they mimic each other. And Auburn comes out with a 12-point lead. Who would have thought that Oklahoma would have scored 22 points in the first half? Because that's not me. I'm thinking they're up towards 35-40 range, and they weren't. And so my thought process is they're done for. We see that lead build up to 17 points. I don't think Jordan Woodard would have been enough for them, and that's an if statement,
right? Because
we'll never know.
Well, and again, we are making a habit of agreeing to disagree, and that's what we're going to do here. Go ahead.
All I would say with Auburn was, you said they figured some things out, and I think they finally began to know what it meant to play defense.
Yeah, they did play good defense, but what I'm going to come back to is they lost 74-70. I think Jordan Woodard's worth a lot more than 4 points to this team.
But who does he take away from?
I don't care who he takes away from.
Jordan Shepard, 13 points.
Maybe Jordan Shepard has 9 or 8 or 7. Because Jordan Woodard is going to have 20. So I'm just saying. Woodard's averaging 17.6. Right now he's averaging 17.6.
But OU also put up 20 more shots than Auburn did.
But they make those shots if Jordan Woodard's playing.
Okay, I see your point. You can win me over with your argument.
All right, we got to shut it down. He's Rich. I'm not.
Down.
This is the SoonerNation podcast, heartland-sports.com. Make sure you check us out over there every day. We also got some great guys covering the Oklahoma City Thunder. We've got some Oklahoma State stuff coming up, previewing their bowl game against Colorado. Make sure you stay tuned in to the SoonerNation podcast. If you got questions, hit us up, Heartland-sports, Heartland_sports at yahoo.com. You also find us on Twitter, Sports Heartland. Look forward to hearing from you guys. Have a very Merry Christmas. Take care. Boomer Sooner, everybody.
When I wake up, yeah, I know I'm gonna be the man who wakes up next to you. And when I go out,